David, we went to the launch of this car and we liked it a lot. What is it?
It is a Subaru BRZ sports car.
David, I think this is one car that they got right, and they got right first go. Have a look at the proportions. What do you think?
It's got an elegant, flowing sports car look.
It does. Now, more importantly, a lot of people have said that this looked more like a heavy makeover of the previous model. And look, I have to agree with them. I think it does look like a heavy makeover, but that's because they got the first one right. Now, there are a lot of people that didn't like the first one. First of all, from the back you get this lovely, broad, muscular bulge out over the mudguards. I think it makes it look very, very grown up. 18-inch wheels.
And they stand out a bit without looking too small, but giving you a bit of a perception of their size. I like it.
And then from this angle, you can see the skirt. This whole bottom bit is plastic coming up here to the vents.
Very important in terms of airflow, which we saw on the WRX, but they first introduced it to us on this particular model.
They did, and it starts here at the front. New front lights and the vents that direct air back over the wheels, over the brakes, but it also helps the airflow generally over the car. The splitter at the bottom, do be careful of that on gutters, as I've found out to my detriment. Just here you'll notice we've got some washers.
And the almost extension of lights is almost a little bit of Jaguar F-Type there, but with the individual lights behind it. I think it looks functional and neat.
Absolutely right. Now up here on the windscreen, David, we've got the dual cameras. One here and one on the other side. That's for the eyesight. They don't have a sunroof in any of the BRZs. It's got this neat dint in the roof, which I think gives it a bit of extra character, and of course the shark fin aerial. This inbuilt spoiler that looks like it's actually meant to come up airfoil style, but it doesn't. It contains the high mount brake light and a button just there to open the boot. Now look at this, David.
Is that a full-size spare?
It is a full-size spare. It's a really good and important thing to have in a car. It means that when you put the spare on, you don't have to do 80 kilometres an hour. It does take up a lot of space, but how often do you have stuff in the boot? The back seats do go down, and the old model was reported to have the ability to put 4 tyres for your track day in the car. So you could take off your road tyres and put on the track tyres. So you'd leave the road tyres by the side. One of the things I like about this particular car is it is in WR blue, my favourite Subaru colour. WRX also has that.
It does make it look sporty, doesn't it? The WRX, we had the station wagon in a grey silver sort of colour, and the other sedan in the blue, and the blue just looked so much more purposeful.
It does, and the frameless windows, essential in any sports car, but especially if it's a coupe, they pop down just a little bit when you crack the door, so that when you close it, it doesn't kind of stop the door from closing. Inside, David, the cabin looks quite different to the old one. There's a little keeper up here for the seatbelt, which I like a lot. You're really not going to use the back seats. There is no room in the back. You've got an armrest there, David.
Yes, I have this, which opens up in dual ways.
There's a single cup holder, some seat heating. This one, David, does have the 6-speed automatic. In front of that, you've got the traction control off, sport mode and snow mode. I don't know why you'd want to turn your traction control off, but that seems to me to be particularly mad. And a track button, again, something I'm not going to touch. We've got the air conditioning controls. Dual controls for temperature. But you can leave it in just full automatic if you want. This system I've found to be particularly buggy. If I go into the DAB station list, you can see one of them is missing. I've had that problem with this and the WRX all week. My favourite station keeps vanishing, which is Buddha Hits. Yet if I click on it, it is actually there. However, it disappears during the journey, which is so annoying. You'll notice we've got a full digital dash.
I like the set out of simplicity, both the dash, simple dial in the middle, digital speed number, and the gear you're in.
Yeah,
I like
but
that.
David, it's got that annoying.
Oh,
Yeah.
to
Yep.
set the cruise control?
Yeah.
At
And
least
yet-
you can see it.
Yeah, but David, then you've got to go up to the steering wheel to adjust the distance to the car in front with that kind of middle button.
Oh,
there.
here.
Which is slightly annoying, but nonetheless, the rest of the cabin's beautifully laid out. Air vents here in the middle, and the kind of dual level bit, which I quite like.
Right.
And this sort of felt lining, it is just cardboard, but nonetheless fairly well lined.
Doesn't the air vent seem good? It seems like it's a jet engined
Yeah.
output. I think that's got a bit of style to it.
Well, the thing with eyeball vents is you can put the air exactly where you want it. On the doors, you notice that there's Alcantara trim as well. It just makes it feel nice and soft, and it looks like that's the same that's on the roof, but it's not. Even just in normal mode, it feels so frisky and brisk. Because this is Japanese, the indicators are on the correct side, but they're one of those ones that flops back to the central position once you've selected your direction, which means if you want to cancel it, you've got to be careful that when you flick it back, you don't over flick it. Now, you can hear there is a little bit of raucous excitement once you sink the boot in. I've selected sport. It's a little bit more noise from the engine. And this thing's tail happy as it is. But it makes that 6-speed automatic really quite snappy. Just going to put that back into normal mode. Now that we are at 100 kilometers an hour, you can see what I mean. The cabin is quite noisy on this fairly noisy tarmac. And I'd almost go so far as to say that it's extremely noisy. Now that we are at speed, I'm going to set the cruise control, which is active. My lane departure warning will stop me from venturing too far outside, but it's not active, unlike the WRX. This is kind of more of a driver's car. And although it does have more eyesight features than the manual, it still doesn't have all the eyesight features of WRX. I've got reverse automatic braking so that if I'm going backwards and I look like I'm going to hit anything, it will pull me up, and I really mean pull you up. That works extremely well. Visibility, considering this is a very small coupe, is pretty good. I can see all my corners. And you can see that although this does have maps and navigation built in, I'm using my Apple CarPlay, which is wired. Sadly, it's not wireless. There's no wireless charging pad either. And here was the really crazy thing. I was looking for a place to plug my Navman dash cam in. Couldn't find a 12-volt outlet anywhere. It turns out it's in the glove box, but way at the back. And I mean, you really have to search for it to find it. For a minute, I thought this car didn't have one. On the launch, we had this car on the racetrack, and I'll put a link to that in the comments below. The steering, extremely good. Like its predecessor, it is tail happy, but it's not as tail happy as its predecessor. So you can see the harbour bridge. This is what it's like driving around Sydney. Now we've well and truly entered city traffic. Gives me a chance to talk about a couple of the other things. Such as the fact that there's a Jaguar E-Type-esque bulge out over the mudguard that you can only see from inside the car. It's only apparent when you're sitting in the front seats, which I rather like. Now remember, this car weighs about, I think it's 1,270 kilos. So In automotive terms, that's a lightweight. Final thoughts. The suspension is firm. It's very firm, it's sports car firm. It's not adjustable, so what you see is what you get. And I'm okay with that. If there was one small change they might make, perhaps they could find a way to incorporate the 14-inch Subaru screen in this. I realise it's a joint project, not always possible. And there's not a whole lot of space here for a 14-inch screen, even in portrait mode. That was a really lovely week spent in a really lovely car. It does almost everything right. A couple of annoying things, but I think I could live with them.
Not turbocharged, but it's got enough power to enjoy.
And that's what was the criticism about the old model, was that it wasn't quite powerful enough. This has got another, 25 odd kilowatts or thereabouts. I think it makes all the world of difference, and I love the sound of that flat 4.
Indeed.
It's come time, David, as always, to hit like.
Or leave a comment.
And I think, where would they like to subscribe? Just over here, I think.